Good evening, guys. So here's my employment law and corona video. I promised it to you earlier, but this week a lot happened with employment laws in terms of corona, and it would have been stale information if I gave you an overview without taking consideration into the new laws that came down from New York State and federal government. And also partially this is taking me this long because legitimately after being like 3 weeks in quarantine, because as some of you know, my coworker was exposed to possible coronavirus early on. So I've been home for like 3 weeks. I legitimately could not even find my hairbrush for the longest time. So, and I couldn't, for morale of the public, I think I couldn't present without a hairbrush. I did find it. In fact, I feel like for the first time in 3 weeks, I got ready for a date with you all. But jokes aside, there's actually a lot to cover. I spent the entire day reading and trying to understand the new laws because they literally came down, you know, just a day or two ago, and synthesize into like bite-sized information. No joke, my first video was over an hour. So now it's nighttime, and I'm gonna take an attempt of actually breaking this down, and those that are super interested in actual analysis of the statute that I did in the other video can go and watch that one separately on their own time. But I don't wanna flatter myself to think that I'm such an engaging speaker that I can put you through 45 minutes of a video, especially about law, which is pretty dry. So I'm going to make, I think, 5 or 6 videos, and you guys can watch the ones you want to watch. Maybe that's easier. On the topics, I think that will help create like kind of like a basic understanding of what, you know, coronavirus is doing to employment law. And then as things develop, we can build on that. And the 5 categories, or 6 or how many, I broke it down to is... one is general concerns and the calls I've been getting. You have no idea how panicked people have been. So many people are going to get laid off or got laid off or are quarantined, are not sure if they can get fired for having corona, stuff like that. So this will be the first video I do, and it will address what do you do if you're laid off, sick, afraid to go to work and don't want to go to work, or are actually quarantined. Second video in this series will be what the laws for sick time off and disability leave, because these are the 2 components that we actually have in play right now with corona, were before coronavirus. What protections were, and this is important because those protections are still in place, but now there's been emergency measures building on that. So for certain individuals that could be sick or having a baby this year and need disability leave, then the new laws, you know, it's not like it's the same bucket. It could be 2 different buckets. And also I think for general understanding where we are, what protections we had or rather didn't have, and the protections we're getting now temporarily as an answer to pandemic is also, I think, interesting. Number 3, I will talk about the New York state laws that passed. So this week, a new law passed that basically is pretty narrow, addresses people in quarantine, in precautionary or mandatory quarantine, or who work for employers in industries that have shut down. Okay, so like that's waitresses, baristas and whatnot, because restaurants, well, I shouldn't say just those 2 professions. I mean, everyone who works in restaurant and bars, some schools. So for them, there is some relief there, not so much for the rest of us. But anyway, but I want to go over that in detail. Then 4, I want to make a video about federal laws. A new federal law came down with 2 components, with sick leave and with disability leave for those that are affected by coronavirus, which is more expansive than the state law, although 2 of them can be used together in certain situations. So that would be the 4th video. Then I want to talk about whistleblowers. So what happens now to doctors that are alerting hospitals to doing something wrong? What happens to a waitress that complains that a bar is operating when you know, the order that all bars should be shut down, what happens to her, you know? So, not to her, to them, to all of them, right? So the whistleblowers in this case, I think it's very interesting. And also, you know, what happens if you complain to your boss that they're not taking it seriously, that your coworker may or may not have had corona. This is especially interesting now because there's such a problem with testing, right? So if it's not confirmed, does it mean that everyone should be coming to work? Well, you will learn in this video. And sixth, I wanted to address wrongful termination. So basically, yes, you can get laid off because of coronavirus, but can you get laid off? But is there a way you can get fired illegally still? Yes, there is. So yes, fine. Employers will be laying people off, but unfortunately, we're seeing a big rise in racism, prejudice, and all these silly things that pop up right now. So while an employer can fire 20% of their workforce because they don't have demand because of coronavirus, they, you know, and they can eliminate certain positions. They can, let's say we're cutting 20% and that would be fine, of lowest performers or whatever it is. But they can't, and we're getting calls about this, which is crazy. They can't be like, we're firing all Europeans, all Italians are gone, all the French are gone because they're disease prone. Obviously, we're seeing that with racism towards Asian people, or, you know, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to give you these negative examples because, unfortunately, the propensity for judging people and for making bad judgment calls could surprise you. But yeah, so is there a way, or you know, if they fired all the older people or the pregnant people, so people that are prone to be sicker from coronavirus, then of course this would be illegal. So I want to talk about things that can go wrong with the layoffs that are going to happen. So anyway, so I think once all those videos are together, you can jump to the one you want. And hopefully that's helpful to you. And obviously, as a disclaimer, none of this is legal advice. This is basically, you know, my service to you to try to navigate through what the heck is happening, because what is happening is really unprecedented. And I think we should all do what we can to bring a little bit of peace, or at least knowledge, because there's so much information. And hopefully, as an employment lawyer, I can help navigate this area of it. So please stay tuned.